In a small, forgotten town nestled between dense forests, there stood an old, decrepit building known as the Silent Morgue. Abandoned for decades, its doors were sealed and windows boarded up. The once white paint had faded to a dull gray, and ivy crept up its walls, giving it an eerie, almost sentient look. The story of the Silent Morgue was whispered among the town's children, a tale to frighten and thrill. It was said that many years ago, a series of mysterious deaths had plagued the town. The victims were brought to the morgue, but strange things began to happen. The mortician, Dr. Harlow, claimed the bodies moved on their own, their eyes opening and closing even in death. His tales were dismissed as the ramblings of a madman, and soon after, he disappeared without a trace. One stormy night, a group of teenagers dared each other to explore the Silent Morgue. Sarah, Jack, Emily, and Tom, armed with flashlights and nerves of steel, made their way through the overgrown path to the morgue. The heavy oak door creaked open, and a musty, cold air greeted them. Inside, they found old, rusted gurneys, broken medical instruments, and dusty files scattered across the floor. As they ventured deeper, an unshakable sense of dread set in. Sarah, the bravest, led the way. They found the mortuary chamber, where the bodies were once stored. The room was colder than the rest of the building, and their breaths came out in visible puffs. Jack noticed an old, leather-bound book on a desk in the corner. Its pages were yellowed and brittle. He opened it and began to read aloud, "The dead shall rise," when called by name. Suddenly, a loud thud echoed through the room. Emily screamed as she saw a drawer in the wall slowly slide open. Inside was a body, perfectly preserved, its eyes wide open and staring at them. Tom's flashlight flickered and died, plunging them into darkness. Panic set in as they heard footsteps approaching, though they were alone. The sound grew louder, closer, until it was right next to them. A cold hand grabbed Sarah's arm. She screamed and tried to pull away, but the grip was strong. The flashlight flickered back to life, revealing Dr. Harlow's ghostly figure. His eyes were hollow, and his mouth twisted into a sinister grin. "Welcome to my morgue," he whispered. "You shouldn't have come here." In a frenzy, the teenagers ran towards the exit, but the door slammed shut with a force that rattled the entire building. The walls seemed to close in, and the air grew thick with the stench of decay. Sarah felt the icy grip tighten around her, pulling her back towards the mortuary chamber. The others tried to help her, but an invisible force pushed them away. They watched in horror as Sarah was dragged into the open drawer, the lid slamming shut behind her. The building fell silent once more, save for the sound of their terrified breathing. They pounded on the door, screamed for help, but no one heard them. One by one, they vanished, their screams echoing through the silent halls of the morgue. The townsfolk never saw the teenagers again, and the Silent Morgue remained as it was, a dark, haunted place filled with restless spirits.